Now that we have learned how to convert a decimal to a percent and vice versa, and we can handle fractions in the mix, we are ready to examine the basic percent formula. To find the amount A, that is P% of a quantity B, use the formula A equals PB. Now, this is our first of many financial formulas in this chapter. Many of the later financial formulas will be dependent on this basic building block. Notice the language here. P is a percent of a quantity B. When you hear the word of, that usually coordinates with multiplication. B is the total quantity, and A is a portion of that quantity. P is always going to be the decimal form of the percent. It's usually quoted as a percent, but we convert it to a decimal in order that our calculations will turn out correctly. Let's apply this basic formula to a familiar situation. If your bill at the Outback Steakhouse was $28.32 and you need to leave a 15% tip, how much money should you leave? So we'll use our new basic percent formula, A equals PB. Now, the whole total here is $28.32, and we need to leave 15% of that whole. So we're going to calculate the amount, the portion of the whole that is 15%. So for P, we're going to plug in 0.15, which is the decimal form of 15%, times 28.32. So let's type this into our calculator. 0.15 times $28.32. We're going to end up with 4.248. Now remember, we're dealing with money. Money is measured in dollars and cents. So we need to round this to the nearest penny. So we'll round this to 4.25. So the amount of tip that we should leave is $4.25. Remember, it is customary to use the dollar sign when expressing the value of money, and always round to the nearest penny, which is the nearest hundredth or 2 decimal places. Let's try a couple more examples. Example 2, if you have saved $1,200, by the way, good job saving $1,200, that's awesome, and your goal is to save $5,000, what percent of your goal have you reached? What percent, so I'm looking for P, of my goal is B, and notice my goal here is $5,000. $1,200 is a portion of that whole. So again, we're going to use our basic percent formula, A equals P times B. This time we know that A is $1,200. The percent, we don't know. That's what we're trying to calculate, so I'm going to leave that as a P, and we'll plug $5,000 in for B. Now, this is a simple linear equation that's easy to solve. Notice the operation that's applied to P here is multiplication. So I'm going to undo that operation of multiplication using the inverse operation, which is division. So to solve this equation for P, we're going to divide both sides by 5,000. It's going to cancel out over here on the right. So we need to calculate 1,200 divided by 5,000. We could certainly type that into the calculator as is, or notice we could divide the top and the bottom by 100. You can cancel zeros like that using multiples of 10. So all we need to type into our calculator is 12 over 50. Now keep in mind, if you type into your calculator 1,200 divided by 5,000, you're going to get the same result. I just reduced a little bit before I typed it into the calculator. So it looks like 0.24 is P. Now remember, in this formula, P is always represented as a decimal. But the proper way to answer this question, since we were asked for a percent, is to move that decimal 2 places to the right and add the percent sign. Now, you can check your work by finding 24% of your $5,000 goal to see that it is, in fact, $1,200. So you are 24% of the way to your goal. Let's try example 3. In 2001, jails were operating at 90% capacity with a total of 612,000 inmates. What was the 2001 capacity? So we're going to use our formula A equals PB. Clearly 90% is P. Now 90% of some total amount was 612,000 inmates. So 612,000 is the portion of the whole. It's the portion of the capacity. We're trying to figure out what the capacity is. What's the total capacity? So we're going to plug the 612,000 in for A. For P, we're going to use 90%, or as a decimal, that's 0.9 times B. Once again, we're going to use a little bit of algebra here to isolate B. We're going to divide both sides by 0.9. So we can type this into our calculator, 612,000 divided by 0.9. And this is going to give us the total capacity. Looks like 680,000 inmates. So 680,000 was the capacity. We can double check that with our calculator by calculating 0.9 or 90% of the total capacity, 680,000, to see that we get 612,000. So in each of these examples, we examined how to work the problem with a different unknown. In example 1, A was unknown. Example 2, it was P. And example 3, it was B. So read carefully and make sure you get your values plugged into the right place, and practice doing a little bit of algebra to solve those equations. It's pretty straightforward and simple.